If a batsman averages 43.84 in tests, very rarely do we doubt his quality. But the kind of shot that Rishabh Pant played in the World Test Championship final has made a lot of minds start to think that whether that is the right template to be successful in Test cricket. And what successful in Test cricket? And who better could we have to discuss about that than one of the great cricketing brains in the industry, Mr. Jarrod Kimber? Hi, sir. How are you?
I'm very good. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. Thank you. So, when Rishabh Pant charged down the track and, tried to hit Trent Bolt out of Southampton and then just managed to top edge it. So, what was your reaction to that shot?
That he was trying to score runs.
So, you were absolutely against it.
Yes, you just said it. He averages 43 in Test cricket in an era where averaging over 40 is almost impossible in Test cricket at the moment. He averages over that mark. Plus, he's a wicketkeeper. Can you tell me how many wicketkeepers in the history of the game have made as many runs as him, averaging over 40? I find this is classic in New Indian cricket. You guys need something to complain about because your team's so perfect, and you're looking at all these individual problems where it's just like, you have a once-in-a-generation cricketer. If you can find a cricketer who can score at the rate of Rishabh Pant, who has the skills of Rishabh Pant, who is the all-round skills of Rishabh Pant, at no stage should you be worried that he goes out attacking in that situation. What he was trying to do, and what he does a lot of the time, is he tries to win situations with attacking shots. Do you know who else did that? Viv Richards, Kevin Peterson, Victor Trumper, Adam Gilchrist. We've seen players do that throughout history. And Rishabh Pant's doing it in an era where no one else is making any runs. I think he's a phenomenally talented player. And I think that there is a bias in cricket that batters should be going out caught behind or caught in slips. And that's an honourable wicket. And if you come down the wicket and you try and slap the ball, that's a dishonourable wicket. It doesn't matter. As the great Viru once said, it doesn't matter if you caught it second slip or deep point, you're still out. And what attacking batting does is it upsets the opposition. It changes the situation. You cannot just bowl your best ball anymore. You have to change your plans. You have to change your tactics. It upsets the thinking of the bowler, of the captain. It can change the direction of the game. Rishabh Pant is brilliant at it. If at this stage, I can't think of a player who has the ability to match the scoring rate at which he has with the runs he makes. I mean, he's averaging more than Ben Stokes, and Ben Stokes has played a lot of stupid shots in his life as well. That is what attacking batting is. And I really don't. At the very same time, people are complaining about Rishabh Pant. They're also complaining about Cheteshwar Pujara, and you can't have it both ways.
Yeah,
And you have
absolutely.
to understand that there are multiple ways of scoring runs in Test match cricket, and people don't understand that. And there is a risk in defending, and there is a risk in attacking, and there is a risk in taking a quick single. There is a risk in running down the wicket. There is also the fact that Rishabh Pant has clear flaws within his game outside the off stump. And what he does is he tries to get the bowler before the bowler gets him. And so far, it's working. If he was averaging 27, I think this line of questioning and this feeling on Twitter would be completely justified. He's averaging 43. Have you seen what the global average is? People are averaging you've got star players around the world averaging in the mid 30s at the moment. It's a tough time to make test match runs. Take them when you can get them.
Absolutely. And it was really nice to hear about what your thought process is in this. But there is always a method to madness, right? Given the game situation, like at the end of the day, when we realized that 10 more overs of batting and India could have drawn the game. So,
At the end of the day,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
That's the key phrase that you just used there is what we do sitting at home is we go, well, look what's happened now. If he had done this, we would be in a better situation. Rishabh Pant is not batting at the end of the day. Rishabh Pant is batting in the middle. Who was at the other end? Was it Jadeja he was batting with at that stage? I'm trying to remember
it was Ashwin.
So he's already batting with a tail ender of sorts. Obviously, we know that Ashwin can hold his bat. So he's already down to the tail end, and he knows that beyond Ashwin, it's dust, right? There's nothing beyond Ashwin at that point. He's making a tactical move and thinking at that point, if we can get now another 20 or 30 runs, if I could hit Trent Bolt out of the attack, maybe they have to bring back Colin de Grandhomme. If I can score quickly at this stage, that may mean that there's less pressure on the other end for Ashwin. He's trying to hit one of the world's best bowlers off his line and off his length. It's very easy to say at the end of his day, he should have done something differently. That's not when he's batting. He's batting at that specific ball for that specific situation. And what you were trying to do as an attacking batter in his way, and that is what he should be in the side as. I mean, I think some of the negativity around Rishabh Pant has completely diminished what is one of the most attacking natural players in the world. He's T20 cricket. People trying to get into bat like an anchor. It's like, you can find anchors everywhere, right? You can't find Rishabh Pants everywhere. They are very, very rare. And in Test cricket, I would say he's even rarer. So in that particular situation, what you're really trying to say is you give him a license to change the game. If Rishabh Pant manages with the tail to put on 70 or 80, then, at the end of the day, it's a completely different conversation. If he has, remember that innings he played against England in the first Test at home? A phenomenal counterpoint, and everyone says, "Oh, but he got out just as he got to 80 or 90 or whatever his score was." He gave India a chance in that game that when he entered the crease was not existent. That is what attacking players give you in your side, and you cannot have an attacking player and then go, "Oh, but their attacking nature has to be exactly the way that I want it to be," because that's not how attacking play works. We remember Adam Gilchrist now as this phenomenally successful player because a lot of the early stuff he did in his career when he was averaging around 60 came off. The exact same attacking cricket towards the end of his career, I think he was averaging 35 to 40 over the back end of his career. He failed a lot, and that was in much better batting conditions in what was a more dominant side than India had. You have the exact same positions here. And I think that we think that you look at that one particular shot, but how many times have you cheered when he hits a 6 out of the rough? How many times have you cheered when he plays a hook shot against a really fast bowler? And I think that fundamentally, you as a fan, I don't mean you specifically, although I will point at you right now, but you as a fan has to be like, you cannot have it both ways. And it was Ian Bell taught me this really, chatting to him about his career, and he said that I'd written an article about him playing a cover drive and going out. And he said, "How many times have you talked about me having the best cover drive in the world?" He said, "I hit 4 cover drives for 4 and everyone tells me I'm great. The 5th one goes to third slip and I'm the worst person in the world." And that is the remit of sort of the counter-attacking or the aggressive batsman, the batter who's playing to their strengths. You cannot have it both ways. What people are talking about is literally, why can't Cheteshwar Pujara be Virat Kohli? Or why can't Rishabh Pant be Steve Smith? And the truth is that they are never going to be those sorts of players. What they are doing is they are maximizing their talents and their impact with the skills that they have. Rishabh Pant is always going to have a weakness outside off stump. If as an analyst for any of these teams, and you see teams now, they hang the ball wide to him over and over again. We know that Cheteshwar Pujara is going to take 80 balls to get to 20 runs. We know that is going to stall the momentum, which means that if you can take wickets at the other end, the score will not get completely away from you. But we also know that Rishabh Pant has the ability in a session to change where a test match is going. And we also know that Cheteshwar Pujara can win entire series by basically tiring out the opposition's best bowlers. Yeah. You cannot have these things come with caveats. They come with deficiencies. They come with something at the other end. And I think that we don't factor all that in. There is anytime, if you play a cover drive of a 90-mile-an-hour bowler, you are making a risk. So, but when you don't play a cover drive off a 90-mile-an-hour bowler, everyone goes, "Oh, that was the loose one." Yeah. There is people fundamentally don't understand the risk and reward of a test match batting. And if there was no risk and reward in it, you would see the sort of batting you get in the middle overs of one-day cricket. And there is a reason why it's really easy to bowl a bat between overs 10 and 40 in a one-day game, and it is not particularly easy to bat in Test cricket. The games are set up completely differently, and I don't think people have fundamentally understand that at the moment.
Yeah. So you made a really nice point about Rishabh Pant's counter-attacking innings against the likes of Jack Leach maybe in the first test. So do you think that by not showing him a left-arm spinner, New Zealand already won the mental battle there before a ball was being bowled? or was it just purely based on the conditions that they went with an all-pace attack?
I think the conditions certainly dictated it. I think both teams picked what they thought were their best 5 bowlers. Colin de Grandhomme didn't end up looking brilliant all the time, but we do know that he can nibble the ball around. We know he has a test average of 32, and had they, and I think he was dangerous enough that he annoyed the Indians, even if he wasn't blitzing anyone in the way that he sometimes can. So I think it was more to do with the best 5 bowlers in that situation for both teams. Look, I'm a big fan of Ajaz Patel. I just don't know what he would have given the New Zealand team in that specific environment. I think if the Indian team had a track record of being particularly bad against left arm finger spin, some of their right-handers, I think he probably plays. But Cheteshwar Pujara is brilliant against left arm finger spin. I can't remember. I think Virat might be quite good. Virat's quite good against when the ball spins away from him with a finger spinner. I think off the top of my head, I think that's right. So some of their right-handers are not, they're not traditional right-handers in that if you had a traditional right-hand lineup, I think then you probably play Ajaz Patel for the matchups. But I think in this particular case, what New Zealand did was they went with their first 5 bowlers. So I don't think they were nervous about Rishabh Pant, because even if you picked Ajaz Patel, you still would have had 5 bowlers. So you could have just not bowled him when Rishabh Pant was batting. Also, it's a very big ground. Which we kind of forget, that particular ground. So if you're ever going, and that's why spinners do so well down in Hampshire in general. So I think you would have almost favored yourself even with him hitting with the spin there. So, compared to some of the grounds in India where you can miss hit sixes quite a lot. Hampshire it's a big hit. I don't know if you've ever been there, but it's a very, very big playing surface. And so I think they would have backed themselves. So no, I think that was more about them playing their strengths. I think both teams tried to play to their strengths, which for me was really interesting.
Yeah. So, talking about Pujara, the fact that there are reports that, the likes of Prithvi Shaw or maybe someone like a KL Rahul or even Virat Kohli should bat at number 3. And the fact that the reason why he tired the Australian bowlers down was more because of the heat factor. And in England, the climate is going to be overcast, and maybe there would be a delivery with a name written on it, right? So with the word that Kohli likes a lot, right? The intent word. So do you think that Pujara's place is still there in the team? Like we talk about the two extremes, Pujara and Pant. So that is the discussion, right? So what exactly is the template to be a successful in England?
Yeah, I mean, well, Pujara probably has more experience batting in England than most Indians because he's played county cricket. It would be a very bizarre move to not pick him for that. I think you could still tire bowlers out with or without hot conditions. If you're making frontline bowlers bowl 25 overs a day consistently and they're not taking wickets, they will get tired and it will bother them. So there's no reason why Pujara can't do that. It's a completely different situation though. If the ball continues to swing as it has this summer in England so far, you can't dull the ball, which you could do in Australia. So that won't help. I've seen when I did a big piece on Pujara batting slow, and I can see Virat Kohli going on and on about intent. Realistically, if there was a better top order player than Pujara around, he would already be in the team. Yeah. There is a reason that Pujara has gone, and I think Pujara has a lot of limitations, especially outside of Asia. I think in Asia, he's basically unbowlable too when he's in any kind of form, because I don't know how you get him out. He's brilliant against spin, and he can keep out the best balls from seamers in that sort of level, in that sort of environment. Sorry. So outside of Asia, he's not at that level. But there's a reason why Pujara and Rahane are still in the Indian team. And there are a lot of young Indian players out there who are very good players. And it's because they bring something that the rest of the team does not necessarily have. In Rahane's case, he's a brilliant tourist, and he always has been. And that's a very hard thing for an Indian player to get used to, because the conditions are so different outside of Asia. That's a normal thing, which is very fair. The same way that you have batters from other countries who get picked because they're very good in Asia. Rahane makes sense there. I think Pujara is still the player you want when there's an early wicket gone. I mean, this whole thing about intent, you can have as much intent as you want. If Jimmy Anderson doesn't bowl a bad ball to you, your intent doesn't mean shit. It's nonsense. It's unless you're going to be like Rishabh Pant, that's when intent matters. When you're coming down the wicket and you're going to whack someone, or you're Ben Stokes and you're going to bat a meter out of your crease and you're going to fly swat some balls. That intent makes a huge difference. If Jimmy Anderson is going to bowl 24 balls to you consistently, it's very hard to get off strike and to show any general intent anyway, because he doesn't bowl the balls that allow for that. So it's very hard. As a general rule, attacking batters do not come off in England. That's why they don't have attacking batters in their top order. That's why their top order is so effortlessly dull. They don't have a Sehwag or a Shrikant or a Hayden or a Warner, or even a Graham Smith. They don't have those sorts of players, right? And that's because the environment does not allow for that. The environment allows for batting as long as possible to get to a point where you're used to the conditions and that you can get away. I mean, Alistair Cook didn't have intent. Andrew Strauss would put away bad balls slightly more, but I think that, fundamentally you have to understand that Pujara is going to bat slow. And, we did research on this. Pujara batting strike rates. If you're batting slow at your end, it does not affect the person at the other end. That is a complete fallacy in Test cricket. Not saying it might in club cricket, it might even in first class cricket, but we did the study in Test cricket. It does not matter. Generally, batting slow only affects the batter himself, right? That's where it affects you. And the interesting thing about that is that in Pujara's case, he has the ability. He's the best player of good balls in the world, right? Now, what Kane Williamson does against good balls is he deflects them through third man, the same way that Rahul Dravid did. Plays late, deflects through third man. What Steve Smith does to good balls is he turns them into average balls by having them come to his pads, even if his pads are outside off stump. What Joe Root does to good balls is he finds a gap either side of point and he drops the ball and he runs, right? What Pujara does to good balls is he blocks them. And he makes sure that he shows the full face of the bat. He puts his head right over the ball and he tries to get in the way of them. That is the toughest ball in Test cricket to face. And Pujara is the best batter that I have seen outside of perhaps BJ Watley at just being able to face good ball after good ball and accumulate pressure and not worry about it. And that is why he has made runs at home and away. That is why he is in the team. So, the intent thing, and unless you're cranking the intent up to Quinton de Kock levels or David Warner levels, intent's nonsense. Striking at a strike rate of 45 or a strike rate of 55 has so little effect on the overall game. Once you get over 60 and 65 and 70, then there's a big effect. You make runs with a strike rate of 60 or 70 in Test cricket, teams really start to feel it. But most batters are around 45 to 50. And so having someone at 55 is not particularly having a big impact. Now, there is something to be said for positive intent. And I think most players around the world should have that, unless you happen to be the best defensive player in the world. And then you do not need that, right? In that case, he has his own method and it is successful and has been successful. If India find that they have a better player, I have absolutely no problem with them replacing Pujara, but they have to know what they are replacing, which is the best defensive technique in world cricket.
Yeah. So, you would still go, right? You would let them be, just let them be. Let Pant be Pant, let Pujara be Pujara, right?
Yes. If you go back to my work in Melbourne, they both failed. And they got ripped apart in Melbourne. Now, this is me writing about them when they both failed. I think one of them made 20, one of them made 30, I think, off the top of my head. And I wrote a piece going, this is why they did what they did. And this is why it will work in the long term. Go back then and have a look at the rest of that series. It doesn't, I don't always get stuff right straight away, if that makes sense. But there is a game plan that Rishabh Pant plays, and it does actually work for him. And it has worked consistently for him. And I don't think people understand that, averaging 43 as a wicketkeeper is ridiculous. And doing it with his strike rate as well is phenomenal. And Pujara was the difference maker in that series. India did not win that series without Pujara, right? Rishabh Pant, you could say the exact same thing for, but but he made big, sexy runs and got all the credit. Pujara was still fighting for his credit at the end. There's no difference to how they batted at Melbourne and how they batted later on in the series, right? They might have made different individual decisions on the day, which is fair. And Australia might have bowled slightly different to them, but their basic game plans were exactly the same. You cannot judge a player on when they go out, because you are then completely overlooking all the things they have done to get to that point. Right. And I think that is fundamentally what we do. We go, oh, look, he's gone out. He must have made a mistake. Yeah, I remember Jeffrey Dujon years ago in commentary saying something that completely changed my life as a cricket writer, when he said 95% of the time, the batsman has made an error. Right. But the reason they make those errors is you kind of have to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Unless you are just walking back with no backlift and defending every ball with a flat bat, which you'll never score a run off unless you get an inside edge to fine leg or an outside edge. But even then, you want to use soft hands because you want the ball to drop. There is no safe shots in Test cricket, right? The bowlers are incredible, and the bowlers are getting better through fitness, through coaching, through analysis, through wobble seam. The bowlers have never been better, and I'm talking fast bowlers specifically here, have never been better. There is a risk in playing a defensive shot. There is a risk in hitting the ball to the left of a fielder and taking a run. There is a risk in leaving the ball. There is a risk in playing an attacking shot. And we don't factor any of that in. And we just go, oh, he's gone out. He must have done something stupid. Rather than that is an accumulation of a bunch of things that he did and got away with, and now he hasn't gotten away with it. And the other thing that you have to understand is when you're facing bowlers above 85 miles an hour, you don't actually get to react to the ball. When we play club cricket, we can watch the ball out of the hand, track it all the way through to us, and see it onto our bat. In Test cricket, what they do is they watch the ball and then they do this. It's called a saccade. They leap their eyes forward about, I don't know what it is, 3 or 4 meters on the pitch where they think the ball is going to go. They can't track the ball.
Yeah.
That means that there is intrinsic errors that come into Test match batting that don't come into any other level of cricket. It's a different game.
Absolutely. I'm absolutely stunned by your your unique observations and the way that you called it, after Melbourne. That was absolutely fantastic, because you're absolutely right. Without Pujara and Pant, we wouldn't have won that series. So, the conclusion of this discussion is let just them be themselves, and everything will fall into place. And this was just one of those occasions where things didn't work out for them.
Yeah, I mean, when you say let them be themselves, I think what you have to do is you have to work out how they were successful at that to get to that level, right? And then you have to look at how can you improve them, right?
Yeah.
But on a fundamental point, I don't think there's another player who can bat number 6 in the world who can average over 40 with a strike rate of Rishabh Pant other than Quinton de Kock, right? And Quinton de Kock is kind of wasted because he doesn't have the top order to back him up.
Yeah.
Any other team in the world at this moment when global averages have dropped would be dying to have Rishabh Pant, right? The problem is that everyone wants every batter to be perfect. And realistically, Kane Williamson aside, I don't think there is really close to a perfect batter, right? I mean, I'm going to use Steve Smith as an example here. Steve Smith is probably the best batter I've seen in my lifetime. And will probably go on, unless something massively happens with his hand-eye coordination or his reflexes, I think he will go on to probably end up with the highest batting average of any modern cricketer. Steve Smith plays across every ball, right? Which is a huge problem when you come to left-arm finger spin. And we saw it with Kevin Peterson, and we've seen it with other players that, it causes a problem. And it wasn't a problem in the old days before DRS, but with DRS, it's a huge problem. Do I want Steve Smith to fix that problem? Yes, because I hate the fact that that's probably his one weakness, right?
Yeah.
I'd like to see a perfect batting machine. I'd like to see Bradman, essentially, right? But when you start to break this down, if he changes that, can he change his whole technique for one kind of bowling? My guess is no. Will there be follow-on effects if he changes his technique for one kind of bowling? My guessing is yes. I think other things will change, right? Are there ways to make Rishabh Pant and wouldn't it be great if you got Cheteshwar Pujara to work with? I'm trying to think. Who's a really good Joe Root. would be great. Or, you know, maybe someone like Steve Waugh. Wouldn't it be great to have a situation where you could get him to do exactly what he does in defense, but find singles, right? But the minute he does that, his bat face is going to have to slightly open or slightly close. Now, people will say, oh, it's got to show intent. No. He's showing the middle of the bat at the moment. What you want him to do is fundamentally more risky because you want him to do this or do this, right? There will be more inside edges and he'll miss more balls on the inside. The other thing is he's not a brilliant runner between wickets. Yes, he could certainly take more runs than he currently does, right? There's absolutely no doubt that he is on the defensive end of running between wickets. But he's worked out that A, he's not a good runner between wickets. B, he's not a particularly good athlete. C, he's old now as well. Chances are he's not going to get any better. But I would also get that at a very early age, he worked out that is an unnecessary risk, taking those runs, right? For him, not for everyone, but for him, right? The minute you get him doing this, and this, and this, and looking around, you will improve him as a batter in your mind, but you might be taking away from what made him successful in the first place. Now, I'm not saying that these conversations shouldn't be had, because that is what top level coaching staff does. That is talent development. You know, that is how we do things. But generally what we want to be able to do is we want to be able to add something to his game. In that particular case with Pujara, are we adding something to his game? With Rishabh Pant, if we get him to bat less attacking, if we get him to bat more in the box and he averages, let's say his average goes up 2 or 3, right? Which is good. Is that making him a more useful cricketer to India than currently having someone who can bat at number 6, be an above average number 6, and score at a way above average strike rate for a number 6? Are you adding to Rishabh Pant's game by getting him to be slightly more defensive? And also, will it change his mindset? Telling him to go out and be free is perhaps why he is averaging 43, right? We don't know that those other changes will go. Now, when I say, you know, let Pant be Pant and let Pujara be Pujara, constantly, in every player in the world, we can look for improvements, and we can look at different ways of doing things, and we can look at different methods. But you also have to be very, very careful that when you tinker, you're not taking away the thing that is really important. I talked to a bowling coach recently about a technique, and I said, I think this person could get more spin. The only techniques I know really anything about is wrist spin. And I was saying to this bowling coach, who was a fast bowler, I was saying that the bowler's arm is on the left side, which means that when they come through on their body, they're putting a top spin on the ball, but they're not getting as much side spin. If you can get them to be more side on and have the left arm here, they'll have to come around their body more, which means they'll get more side spin. And the bowling coach was like, yeah, you're right. Fundamentally, I agree. But he said, but this person's taking wickets. Do we want to mess with that now? Is that something that we could do if they stop taking wickets? Is that something that we keep on the back burner? Or is there a way that we say to this person, okay, on occasion, if you're thinking I need more side spin, you can just move that over. But we want you to stick with your normal stock delivery. Those are the sorts of conversations that we need to have in cricket. But we do need to understand that, the two people that you're talking about, or that I've talked about the most here, Pujara and Rishabh Pant, are massively successful international cricketers. And B, there is no change that can be made that is going to instantly make them make everyone happy, because that is not how cricket Twitter works.
Thanks a lot. It was an absolute treat to hear all this, and it has been a great show. This Let Pant be Pant and Let Pujara be Pujara, and it was great to have your insights, sir. Thank you so much.
No problem. Thanks for having me on.